Hi, so this video is going to be part of our standard number sense 1.3, finding simplified and equivalent fractions. And I have this fun doodle note sheet where we're going to definitely be taking notes. I'm going to move through very, very quickly. I'm going to be using a pencil and a highlighter. If you want to pause the video and collect those, you can do that now. I'm also going to be moving quickly to try to get all of our notes and work done on this in less than 10 minutes. I don't know that I can do it, but I'm going to try. That means you're going to need to pause the video from time to time and catch up with me on the notes because I'm going to be writing very quickly. So the first part is let's just get familiar with fractions again and what exactly fractions are. Fraction represents the part to the whole. In this example, 4 is our part and 7 is our whole. In a proper fraction, the top number, or the numerator, is going to be less than the bottom number, or the denominator. And then in an improper fraction, it's going to be the opposite, where the denominator is going to be less than the numerator. And already I'm trying to hurry and I've misspelled denominator. And I always tell you guys to do the best you can, and I know that I can spell denominator. So I'm going to give that another shot. And if you want to, you can number that, label that the top number is the numerator and the bottom number is the denominator. Do you remember what the fraction line means? I hope you do remember that it means to divide. So really in this, we're saying 4 divided by 7. Here in the bottom it says that we should shade or color below to show the fraction 4/7. Well, as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. And if we're going to shade to show 4/7, that simply means that we would shade 4 out of the 7 boxes. So we can see that it clearly means a little more than a half. So basic fraction is part over the whole, part of 4 out of 7. For example, if I brought 7 candy bars and I ate 4 out of the 7, I ate 4/7 of my pile of candy bars. But let's move on to talk about the more harder task of simplifying. So indeed, sometimes we need to simplify our fractions. In order to simplify a fraction, we are always going to be dividing both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And you learned in 5th and 6th grade about finding the greatest common factor. And an example of that would be in the fraction 16/20. And I learned to do this using the big L, where we would draw a big L underneath the fraction and spacing it out like 16/20, and then finding that 2 divides into both. 2 goes into 16 8 times, and 2 goes into 20 10 times. And then when I'm ready to reduce again, I draw another L. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. Now, I can break 4 down by 2, but 2 won't go into 5, and I have to divide both the numerator and denominator when simplifying. So for now, I'm done. I can take the numbers on the side, 2 times 2, and here I realize that I can divide by 4, top and bottom, to get the simplified fraction 4/5. Yeah, and here I can prove. If I were to color 16 out of the 20 boxes provided here, 4, 8, 12, 16, that'd be the same as highlighting 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 5 boxes there. Because this, 16/20 would be the same as this, 4/5. So again, I'm going to erase that and make that more clear for you. This is an example of 16/20 being equal to 4/5. It is important for you to know there is only one simplest form, but there are infinite. Do you know that sign? Last year, the infinity symbol was super popular. It means there's infinite. That means never-ending amount. Infinite equivalent forms. Equivalent forms mean equal. So let's talk about some equivalent forms. In order to write an equivalent fraction, we've already learned how to simplify a fraction by dividing, but we can also multiply. So we can multiply or divide as long as we do both top and bottom by the same number. So this little box here tells us how to find the equivalent fraction. So if we have 6/9, I can start by simplifying it down to 2/3. But I want to have all of these equivalent. So now, after I've simplified it, I can multiply. Maybe I'll multiply it by 5. And I'll end up with 6/15. And then maybe I'll multiply it by 2 and get 12/30. And from there, I can do all kinds of things. I can even multiply it by 10 or 100. Let's multiply by 10. 120 over 300. See, there are infinite number of equivalent fractions, but there is only one simplified fraction, 2/3, in its lowest term. So when we find a simplest form, basically what we're saying is we're putting it in lowest terms. And we do that by always dividing. Whereas equivalent, we can divide or multiply to get multiple ones. So let's look at this right here. It says the top. Well, that means up here. And draw a dividing line on the grid for 4/7. Okay, so if I were to take those 7 boxes and divide it like this, I now have 14 boxes. So out of the 14 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are now highlighted. So 4/7 is equal to 8/14. 4/7 to show an equivalent fraction, which would be 8 out of 14. So now we're going to try it on our own. I'll do the first one with you. I want to say, I know that both 8 and 20 will reduce by 2, but that's not the greatest common factor. I know that it will also reduce by 4, which is the greatest common factor, and I would get 2/5. That does not reduce again, so it's in its simplest form, its lowest terms. But now I can multiply by anything. I'll multiply by 10 and end up with 20 over 50 for one of my many equivalent fractions. I want you to go ahead and do the next 3 problems on your own. When you're finished, put your name, your hour, and your Chromebook number at the bottom. Then you'll need to get your interactive notebook. Once you have your interactive notebook, turn to your table of contents, and this will be the first time you have to write in your own. Page 13, you just did the form equivalent fractions from the standard Number Sense Standard 1 Objective 3. And if you turn to my page 13, here are my notes that I did earlier. So yeah, I just did another similar one. So you should have your notes. Then, after you have the teacher check your work at the bottom, you should ask for an accelerated math exercise. I'm sure she's assigned you one to practice simplifying and equivalent fractions. So good luck and thanks for listening.